Welcome back. You continue to watch our coverage here from Davos 2025. And as we've been promising you, it's a wide range of conversations. You just heard from the global CEO of Novartis, and it's time now to bring in Bejul Somaia of Lightspeed. Bejul, thanks very much for joining us here back in Davos, same spot. But what does the view of the world look like this year?
We were here a year ago.
Yes.
And you couldn't walk down the promenade without all kinds of AI stuff everywhere, right?
And you can't walk down without AI this time around either.
But last year it felt a little bit hypey. I think there was this question of, okay, is this one of those moments, and then a year later there'll be something else. I think we're here this year with pretty broad recognition that it's here to stay. It's going to be very impactful. But there's a lot of questions about what that future looks like. But I don't think anyone's questioning whether or not AI is a thing.
Yeah. No, I think everyone's now talking about proof to, from pilot to proof,
That's
and everyone's talking about return on investment. But let's talk about the micro, and let's start with India and how the Indian startup ecosystem is looking at 25. I mean, 24 was a great year in many ways, specifically as far as the IPO market's concerned. What was the 24 headline that you hope to take forward in 25?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. When you look at 24, to your point, lots of excitement on the IPO side, liquidity, which is really important, especially for the venture asset class. It was actually a slowish year as it relates to new investing, specifically in technology. So that was a year where we saw a lot of firms actually head towards some older business models, including consumer brands and others. Early in 25, we're beginning to see, again, interest in some of these more innovative technology-led businesses, which we're really excited about.
So specifically, the kinds of businesses that you're looking at, I mean, I met some fabulous space tech companies here, Indian origin, and, outside of the stuff that you're already invested in, linked to AI or not linked to AI, what's looking good to you today?
Look, I think the thing to remember is that every year there's a handful of incredibly bright founders who are doing things
and very young, very, very
often
young founders,
often young, right? But we're seeing pretty exciting businesses in financial services infra. We're beginning to see what we think of as AI services businesses emerge from India. So this is now attacking, in a sense, the labor automation opportunity, right? Which is much larger, orders of magnitude larger than simply selling software that automates workflow. If you can automate labor versus workflow, the TAM is much larger. So these are areas that we're beginning to now see new businesses emerge, which we really weren't seeing as much of in 2024.
Let's talk about the quick commerce story and how that's playing out. I mean, nobody wanted to buy this story till 2 years ago, and now nobody can get enough of it. I mean, you're an investor in Zepto, which is, of course, hoping to go IPO in 2025. What do you make of the way that quick commerce is shaping up, given how competitive it's already starting to get?
Yeah, well, look, I think this is one of those markets that is extremely large, and you have a value proposition for consumers that is unbeatable. And I think we've seen this over and over again in India or globally. When you have a value proposition that is not incrementally stronger, it is orders of magnitude stronger. Consumers adopt it at a pace that one couldn't imagine. And when consumers do that, investors usually get behind it too. There were early on some questions about whether the economics of this business can be viable. I think we're beginning to see, just as we have in food delivery, that the economics of quick commerce, if you execute right, can be actually quite compelling.
But there's a question mark on the back of what we've seen happen with Zomato's results, and that could perhaps just be a short-term thing. But the concern is that if this ends up becoming a price battle, what will it mean eventually as far as economics go? Do you believe that we're possibly heading into a price battle, given the competitive landscape?
I think, given how important this sector is for Zomato, Swiggy, Zepto, and then perhaps even some of the e-commerce majors, because one way to think about quick commerce is not that it ends there, but that it is the insertion point into commerce more broadly, in which case this matters to a lot of companies that have deep pockets. So I think we have to assume, and we're certainly expecting, that there will be a period of capital intensity driven by market share build out and perhaps some price competition. We'll get through that. The question is,
how long will it last?
How long will it last? How much capital will be required? And which companies will come out of the other end as winners? We obviously are a little biased, but we think Zepto will be one of them.
Yes, I would imagine. But we've got Blinkit, Zepto, and Instamart in the race. But you've also got the big baskets of the world now
Yes.
coming in, Flipkart and Amazon getting into the fray as well. So is the market large enough to accommodate as many as, a dozen odd players?
Well, the answer is the market may be large enough, but the capital that is going to be needed to see this through will not flow to that many players, right? So in the end, there will be a sorting. Look, if you think about food delivery, if you recall, there was a time when there were five or six companies.
Yeah.
Today there are two. And one of the companies was Uber Eats.
Yes.
Right. So I think you'll see something similar. Right now, there's a period where, as I said, this is an important market for many companies. There will be consolidation. There has to be. Capital will flow to the companies that are emerging as the winners.
IPOs in 2024, and I think a recognition by the public markets of what new age companies bring to the table, but also an acknowledgement by new age companies to price right. And we saw that play out. As you look at 2025 and the pipeline, and it's a diverse and exciting pipeline that we look at, what would your hope be?
I just want to add one thing, Shereen, to the progress right, of these companies, which is the companies that got public in 24. These are real businesses, right? When you look at the attention that these companies have paid to their economic profile, generating real cash flow, that's a distinct difference from the first wave of internet companies, and that's really healthy to see. The one caution I have is there is a sense now that any company can IPO.
Or every company should IPO.
Or every company should IPO. And I think we have to be a little bit careful, because the reality is the bar is still high. Once you're a public company, there has to be visibility, there has to be predictability. You don't want to just get out and then have a new set of problems.
No, absolutely. But, the global trends that you're watching out for, America, what's happening in the Valley, and of course, more importantly, in the region as well.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a very exciting year. My sense is that we're going to start seeing investments shift from what have been overwhelmingly on the infrastructure and tooling side of AI to the application layer. We're going to start seeing applications show up in a whole number of different industries: defense, healthcare, financial services, and a long tail of smaller verticals. I think that's very exciting. I think it's also an exciting opportunity for India. At the same time, what we feel as a venture firm is the pace of innovation is changing at a rate that we've never seen before. And what that means for us is we have to keep reinventing ourselves at a pace that we haven't done before.
So what is the reinvention going to entail?
Well, I think it entails reading a lot of white papers and developing real expertise in the underlying technology, combining that expertise with knowledge of specific industries, so we can have a point of view not just about the technology, but also how it will play out in a specific industry. So it's getting more complex.
An acceleration of funding in 2025 and deals?
I think 2024 was pretty hot. So my guess is 25 is going to be relatively similar. I think what you'll see is a shift of dollars to more application layer businesses from the infrastructure layer.
So what's the headline for India going to be for Lightspeed?
More of the same, Shereen. We're here to build companies for the next decade. And I think we're going to keep, whether the cycles are up or down, we could keep looking for great founders, building strong propositions. And if we see them, we'll fund those, whether the market's hot or it's not.
If the market's hot or not, you'll find the bets that you want to back. But always a pleasure, Bejul. Thanks so much for joining us here in Davos. It's been fun talking to you, and we look forward to seeing you back in India. Well, we will take a break here, but the conversations continue. There's a lot more that's coming up. You just got a take from Bejul Somaia of Lightspeed. We'll be in conversation with Axis Bank's Amitabh Chaudhary right after this. Stay with us. We're back in a moment.